In this video, we're going to look at the different type of landslide events. So I told you in the first video that landslide is a really catch-all term. It's a really generic term. And what that means is we need a better way of describing these things. Right? So we're going to classify landslides. It's going to be based on a handful of things. For one, we're going to classify it based on the type of material. You've got basically two choices. You have regolith, and if it's a slide that's mostly out of regolith or some sort of landslide out of regolith, you'll hear the word debris or mud or earth in the name for a lot of these. So debris is usually really big stuff, boulders, cobbles. Mud is really fine stuff. And earth is a lot of soil that's involved. Or the other material can be bedrock. This can actually be failure of solid rock itself. And in that case, you often hear the term rock in there. So you may have like a rock fall or a mudslide. And that tells you a lot about what's going on in the particular event. The other thing we can look at is the type of movement. How does that material move? And there's basically three types of movement, and I'll show you some specific examples here later. For one, you can have a fall, and in a fall, the material is not in contact with the slope at all. It's in free fall. This is a picture from Yosemite National Park in California. That big boulder you see back there, that actually fell during a rock fall back in the 80s along part of the main road, and there's a 12-passenger van there for scale. I always wonder what kind of noise that thing made when it actually hit. The next type of movement is called a slide. This is translational movement. And in this case, it sounds pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You have rocks that are sliding down the slopes. That means they're in contact with the slope at all times. Finally, you have a flow. In this case, your material is going to move as a fluid. The big thing is it doesn't have to be wet. A lot of flows are, and a lot of flows go really fast because of all the water in it. But you can actually get granular flows in pure dry sand and some other material as well, so it doesn't have to be wet. The next thing we're going to look at for a classification is the speed of the movement. I've got you a couple little animations here. On the left, you can see rocks are tumbling down really fast. What that means is a fast-moving landslide is when you could see and things are moving really quickly, and these tend to be the deadliest types of landslide events. If a landslide is moving slowly, you can't detect that with the naked eye very well. And that's what the picture on the right is showing you. This is a time lapse over the course of about a week in California of a landslide that happened. And so that hopefully gives you a little bit of an idea of how this moves. Now there's a medium speed as well. It's one that you can see going. You might be able to outrun it, so it's not going to be moving very quickly. And I'll show you some examples and some videos of these as we go in the video. And you'll definitely see some of these in class because I really like landslide videos. Now, one more thing we're going to look at is the environment where it happened. You know, when you think of landslide, we think of just things on land, right? But these can happen underwater as well. So landslides that happen on land are referred often to as being subaerial. And landslides that happen underwater are called submarine. So under the water versus under the air in those cases. This is a map of some pretty large landslides in Hawaii. You can see kind of towards the center top part of the screen, there's a really big landslide there. You can actually see the chunks of it that are out in the middle of the ocean, which is pretty impressive. Now these can actually trigger really large tsunamis since they displace a whole lot of water. And so submarine landslides are a big reason why that tsunamis happen in the Atlantic Ocean versus earthquakes like we're really used to in the Pacific.